From Mike Moore Media, Ask Your Candidates, with local, state, and national candidates in the upcoming election, answering questions submitted on our Facebook page. And today, we're talking to Stephen DiFiore, Libertarian candidate for governor of North Carolina. Hello, Stephen, and welcome.
Hello, it's good to be here.
First, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Absolutely. So I grew up originally in the Adirondacks of upstate New York. So please don't hold that against me.
Okay.
But I moved down. Yeah, I know. But I moved down to North Carolina in 2004, and I've lived here ever since. And I've lived in Charlotte, North Carolina since 2005. And I just fell in love with the state and the city. And so I am a Carolinian for life now. I went to UNCC, where I got my degree in political science. With an almost minor in Russian studies, but the cost of going to an overseas program was more than my working class pocketbook could afford. So It is what it is. And so I've had a few different careers in retail, luxury retail, and then the construction industry on the project management side. And I've been a longtime member of the Libertarian Party of North Carolina. I do community activism work, and I fight for a better tomorrow. And I try to highlight issues and policies that will make life better for people and communities across our state.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for that. Let's talk. We want to try to cover a lot here in this brief time, but first let's talk about COVID and your thoughts on where we are with this, how the governor has handled things, and maybe what you may have done differently, Stephen.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'll say this, that I'm not in the habit, nor am I inclined to second guess the choices that were made back in March. If you remember, back in March, no one really knew what was going on. No one knew anything about COVID. No one knew how dangerous it was. You know, you had the president shut down travel from China, and the Democrats were saying, "Oh, that's just a terrible thing that he's done. You know, COVID, don't be afraid of it. Go out and, go to Chinatown," right? That was the Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer speech that they gave.
Yeah.
But then just a few weeks later, Italy shut down because they were freaking out because the infection rate and death toll rate and hospitalization rate was going up at just an insane amount. And then everyone was going, oh, this might be something really bad. So, back in March and April, maybe even May, no one really knew what the deal was. And, so going back and saying, well, I would have done this different, done that different, that's not really a helpful conversation. But we know more now than we knew more back then. So one of the things that I would do now is go away from mandates for businesses being shut down and go more toward advisories for social distancing and mask wearing. It's not right that a lot of North Carolinians are not allowed to earn an honest living because of shutdown mandates, right? Bars and some clubs, for example, are not allowed to open and for those workers to earn a living, but restaurants and other indoor spaces are allowed to. There's no, the virus doesn't care, for example, whether you're in a bar or club or in a restaurant. So if one can be open, why not the other? So these sort of political considerations for who can earn a living or not just do more to hurt people. The second thing that absolutely must be done is the people of North Carolina need more information. Now, the Department of Health and Human Services, they have a pretty good number of informational sources on their website. For example, you can see case rates, hospitalization rates, death rates, of course, because that's a big thing that people are interested in. But no one really sees recovery rates or, the caseload, like what is a case? Is a case an individual new case? Is it, or for example, tests, like, hey, so many tests have been done. Okay, that's fantastic. Are these unique tests, or are these people who are working in healthcare, right? So because, they have to get tested every week or so because they're around people who may be ill. There's not a lot of good information. And the thing is, if people are going to make decisions about themselves, about their families, about their business, about the best way to proceed, it's incumbent upon the state to offer the people of North Carolina the best information possible. And I don't trust the federal government to be able to do that. So we need to do the hard work here at the state level to make sure that we have as much information as possible and remove as much political bias as possible from how these numbers are reported.
Okay, I hear you. Thank you for that. Someone asks, what are your goals as governor?
Yeah, so I have a few different goals. My main 4 talking points are promoting work freedom, fighting for medical choice, privatizing the ABC, and shifting power away from Raleigh and toward communities and individuals. So basically, what that means on policy standpoints, we have laws on the books that make it harder for people to earn a living. We have occupational licensing laws that have fees associated with it that have nothing to do with health or safety. And in a free state of free people, why do you have to pay the government some money for permission to work if you can do the job? Libertarians don't think that's right, and it disproportionately affects poor and working class communities. So we want to do something about that. We want to reform these occupational licensing laws and get rid of them so that people can just earn an honest living without having to jump over hurdles that the government puts up. Second thing is the fight for medical choice. A lot of people in North Carolina are talking about Medicare for all or Medicaid expansion, and they talk about that because medical care is so expensive, right? And there are things that we can do right here at the local level to decrease the cost of medical expenses. So, for example, we have certificate of need laws. And certificate of need laws, for example, tell areas that only a hospital or a hospital group or an independent clinic or a doctor with the permission of the hospital can offer certain medical care. So I'll give you a quick example. If you are an independent clinic in Greensboro and you want to buy an MRI machine and offer low-cost MRIs, and if you've ever done an MRI, you know they're extremely expensive, you have to get the hospital's permission to compete with them for their MRI costs. If you go to a hospital, it costs $7,000 to $10,000 to get an MRI. We had an example of a doctor who figured out a way to offer MRIs for $500 if he was allowed to buy an MRI machine. Well, the state said you are not allowed to buy it because the hospital doesn't want you to compete with them. That's certificate of need. It restricts who can offer medical care, and it increases the cost of it because the supply is constricted. That's not right. We can do things in the state to decrease the cost of certain kinds of care, and that makes healthcare more affordable to the people who need that care in North Carolina. Third thing is privatizing the ABC. I was talking about bars and clubs earlier, and we have an example of distilleries or breweries or bars and clubs being attacked by the ABC, or the local ABC commission will say, hey, we need you to pay us more money in a fee because of whatever reason they make up. Or, hey, we see that you're operating when, you're trying to earn a living when the governor said you're not supposed to, so we're going to take away your liquor license. The only reason why the ABC can do that to business owners in North Carolina is because they are state-run and state-controlled and state-owned. They don't have to be accountable to the customer, which would be the businesses or the people of North Carolina. A private model would take the power out of the hand of the ABC so that they can't abuse people who are trying to earn a living in North Carolina, and they can't be weaponized against business owners. And then, of course, we want to shift away from power in Raleigh. I do not believe, and maybe many of your listeners agree with me, that the people in Raleigh know what's best for you or your community. Raleigh and Wake County, what works there is different from what works in, say, Buckham County or Carteret County or Mecklenburg County or Scotland County, right? Mm-hmm. The people who know what's best for your local community are the people that live there. I'm not convinced that a bunch of politicians in the General Assembly or in the governor's mansion know what's best for me and my family. And so I want a system in the state of North Carolina where people are more empowered, communities are more empowered, cities and towns and even counties are more empowered to make the decisions and choices that the people who live there want. Because let's face it, it's easier to hold your mayor or your county commissioner or a town council member to account for their votes or their choices than it is for a senator or a governor. And that's what we want. We want our government to be more responsive to the people's wishes.
I appreciate your voice and your thoughts on that. We have about 4 minutes left. Someone wants to know, what would be your first action as governor?
So the first action I would do is create an independent commission around COVID relief. So a lot of people have been hurt by the lockdowns, the shutdowns, the economic fallout from the COVID response. And so we need to get people in North Carolina back on track. And part of that is nonpartisan, even-handed information for people to know what's going on. So right now the DHHS puts out mandates, and the governor's office, the council of state, they say, we're going to put this in action. Well, rather than DHHS, which are political appointees, making these decisions, because we can't assume that they'll be completely even-handed, we want an independent, nonpartisan commission comprised of experts who will advise on the best things that we can do to both promote health and safety, recovery rates for people who are in the hospital, and also economic recovery. And then we will use that information through the legal process, through the political process, to craft good, solid policies that will help get North Carolina back on track.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. A couple of minutes remaining for some closing thoughts, please.
Yeah, so this has been a strange year, a difficult year, and a political campaign like no other. And one thing that people may notice is, just like 4 years ago and 4 years before that and 4 years before that, you've been told that this is the most important election ever, and you cannot risk voting your conscience and voting for a candidate. You have to vote for the lesser of two evils. Well, after a generation of voting for the lesser of two evils, we have a government that is less responsive to the needs of the people, both at the state and federal level, than ever before. And every year we hear the same things. Every campaign, these politicians are talking about the same things because they never fix it. They'd have no incentive to, because if they fix the issues, they can't run on them anymore. I want to fix these issues. I want to send a message to the people in these halls of power that the people of North Carolina deserve better. We want better. And so I am asking for your vote. I am asking for your support. The ballot box, the votes, that's all these politicians understand or care about. And when you vote for the Libertarian Party, when you vote for a solid policy, someone who's advocating for local communities, you are sending them a message they cannot ignore. And so I'm asking for your support so that we can get North Carolina back on track, we can get better policies out of Raleigh, and we can make North Carolina the best state to live in, to work in, and to raise a family in.
Stephen, it's been a pleasure getting acquainted. This little bit of time we had. Thank you for giving us another choice, another voice. All the best in the election. We wish you much success.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, thanks. On our program today, Stephen DiFiore, Libertarian candidate for governor of North Carolina. This program is paid for by the Libertarian Party of Rockingham County. You can connect with them at facebook.com/RockLPNC. Again, that's facebook.com/RockLPNC. A couple of things. One-stop voting underway now. You can vote early at the Board of Elections in Reidsville, Eden, Madison, Maid, Public Libraries, Salvation Army in Reidsville. Of course, General Election Day, Tuesday, November 3rd, 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Let me give you the phone number for the Rockingham County Board of Elections if you have any questions at all. 336-342-8107. 342-8107. Again, that Facebook page, facebook.com/RockLPNC for the Libertarian Party of Rockingham County.